If you've ever had the gut feeling someone wasn't marrying for love, you're not alone. Robert Lawson stood near the back of the ballroom, invisible in the crowd, but his eyes were fixed on only one person, his new daughter-in-law, Jessica. She twirled under the chandelier, sparkling in her designer gown, champagne fruit in hand, laughing like she'd just won the lottery. Because in a way, she had. But the real surprise? Robert owned the chandelier above her head, and the ballroom under her feet, and every inch of the dream wedding she thought she had pulled off. It wasn't always like this. Rewind 12 months, and Robert was just another proud father ready to welcome his son's future wife into the family. Or so he thought. Let's go back. Robert Lawson, 72, was a retired mechanical engineer from Columbus, Ohio. He wasn't flashy, but he was smart. He had grown up dirt poor, clawed his way through college, and eventually built his own fat company. Sold it at 62. Lived comfortably ever since. Widowed young, he raised his only child, Michael, with both love and military precision. By 30, Michael was smart, kind, financially stable, and an absolute catch. Enter Jessica Monroe. She was stunning. Legs for days, flawless smile, and the kind of laugh that made men forget common sense. She worked in real estate, or at least, that's what she said. From day one, Robert noticed things. She never remembered Michael's favorite band, but she remembered his credit limit. She fumbled through dinner conversations but nailed every conversation about prenups. But Michael was smitten. And when he told Robert they were getting married, Robert smiled. But something in his chest tightened. "You're paying for the wedding, right, Dad?" Michael asked over steak and red wine one Thursday night. "Of course," Robert replied. "What's the budget?" Michael glanced over his shoulder and whispered, "Jessica wants the Crystal Ivy estate." Robert nearly choked on his Cabernet. That venue was legendary. Old money, 30-acre gardens, a waterfall staircase, a waiting list longer than the DMV. And it came with a price tag of nearly $100,000. "She's always dreamed of it," Michael added, smiling like a teenager. Robert swallowed hard. "Has she dreamed of helping pay for it too?" Michael laughed awkwardly. "She says that's tradition. The father of the groom, right?" Robert didn't argue. Not yet. But that night, he poured himself a second glass of wine and opened his laptop. He wasn't going to write a check. He was going to do something far more dangerous. He started researching the Crystal Ivy estate. A month before the engagement party, Robert invited Jessica and her parents to dinner at his house. Jessica showed up late. Her mother showed up loud. Her father didn't show up at all. Over the casserole, Jessica's mother, Donna, said it outright. "I told Jessica to marry up. And thank God she listened. You raised a gold mine, Robert." Jessica laughed too hard. Michael turned red. Robert smiled politely, but inside, something clicked. She didn't marry Michael for love. She married him because she thought he came with a vault. And now, she was planning to throw the most expensive wedding in the Midwest, with Robert's money. Weeks passed. Jessica began touring the venue and posting selfies under the marble arches like she already owned it. What she didn't know, the Crystal Ivy estate was in trouble. Big trouble. The owners, an old couple in their 80s, were months behind on taxes. Rumors of foreclosure. Quiet listings through private brokers. Robert made a few calls, hired a discreet agent, and set up a blind LLC. 2 weeks later, with the ink still drying, Robert Lawson became the sole owner of the Crystal Ivy estate. He didn't tell anyone. Not even Michael. Instead, he waited. The night before the wedding, Jessica was a hurricane of entitlement. "I want rose petals down the aisle, no carnations. And I want the pianist to play Taylor Swift, not Mozart." Is that hard to understand? The wedding coordinator blinked. Robert leaned against a pillar, arms crossed, watching her tantrum unfold like a reality TV rerun. Jessica strutted past him, stopped mid-step, and fake smiled. "Try not to trip over the decor tomorrow, Robert. It's gonna be a classy event." He smiled. "Oh, I'll stay out of the way," he said. "Wouldn't want to ruin your investment." She rolled her eyes. The next morning, as guests began arriving and Jessica was busy posing for photos, The venue's lawyer approached her quietly with the contract. Jessica glanced at it, confused. "What's this?" "It's your formal rental agreement. Payment due before vows begin." She blinked. "I thought this was all handled." It was. The owner insisted you sign in person. Jessica scanned the bottom of the page and froze. Owner, RL Holdings, LLC. Signed by Robert Lawson. She turned pale. Robert waited at the top of the grand staircase, watching her descend like a queen, but inside? She was panicking. The photos went on. The ceremony began. Jessica said "I do" with clenched teeth. And as the reception kicked off, she cornered Robert. You set this up. You bought this place." Robert swirled his scotch. "Correction. I saved it. You just funded the remodel." "Why would you do this?" "Because, Jessica, you married my son for money. I just wanted to see how far you'd go. Turns out, all the way to a rented fairy tale built on a lie." Jessica stormed into the bridal suite, slamming the heavy oak door behind her. Makeup artists froze. Her maid of honor blinked. Someone dropped a curling iron. "I'm not going back out there until that old man gives me my money back," she shrieked. Her voice cracked like glass against the mirrors. Meanwhile, down in the ballroom, Robert raised a toast. "To love, honesty, and transparency. May we all see things clearly, sooner or later." The guests clinked glasses, unaware of the war erupting upstairs. Michael found her 15 minutes later, pacing in her $6,000 gown like a caged tiger. "What's going on?" he asked gently. Jessica spun. "Your father is a manipulative control freak, that's what. He bought this place just to humiliate me." Michael looked stunned. "What? That can't be right." "He made me sign a rental contract on our wedding day, Michael." He hesitated. "Why would he do that?" Jessica scoffed. "Because he's jealous. He hates me. He's always hated me." But Michael wasn't stupid. His father could be harsh, but never petty. He sat on the velvet bench and sighed. "Did you really ask him to pay for everything?" Jessica's face twitched. "Did you lie about your job? About the car lease? The dress?" Silence. The mirror reflected the truth before she spoke it. Back downstairs, Jessica's mother, Donna, stomped across the reception hall in leopard heels. She found Robert near the bar and launched into a full frontal assault. "You're a bitter old man, Robert. What kind of father ruins his son's wedding?" Robert didn't blink. "I didn't ruin anything," he replied calmly. "I just handed your daughter the bill she owned." "You embarrassed her in front of 200 people." Robert smiled. "She embarrassed herself when she turned love into a financial transaction." Donna hissed, "You think you've won? You're a sad, lonely old man." He leaned in just slightly. "And you," he said softly, "are now officially renting space from me. So smile wide, Donna. The cameras are rolling." By morning, the story was everywhere. A wedding guest posted a TikTok. "Movie camera POV. The father-in-law buys the wedding venue to get revenge on his gold-digger daughter-in-law." It hit 3 million views by lunch. Instagram Reels spun out conspiracy theories. Reddit caught fire. Our AI had a field day. AITA for buying the venue my DL wanted and making her sign a contract. Not the a-hole. This man is an icon. Jessica's brand took a massive hit. Her real estate influencer account lost 10,000 followers in 24 hours. She tried to fight it, posting edited videos, emotional reels, long captions, but the internet doesn't forget. Especially when you're crying in a $6,000 dress beneath a chandelier you don't own. A week after the wedding, Jessica moved into Michael's condo with 2 Louis Vuitton suitcases, a designer coffee machine, and a garage the size of Texas. Robert didn't visit. He didn't call. He simply mailed them a check, labeled, "Refund for remaining wedding balance, minus rental fees and catering. Congratulations." Amount, $0. Michael started noticing things. Jessica refused to cook. She had packages delivered daily, clothes, gadgets, facials. And when he asked her about her job, "Oh, I'm building a brand," she said. "But I need space.
Can you stay at your dad's place during the week? Michael stared at her. That was the moment. The moment it all clicked. Michael started keeping score. Day 3. Jessica called DoorDash for a $27 avocado toast, while he ate instant oatmeal. Day 4. She posted #husband goals ring banknote with $sign with a picture of his watch. Day 5. She referred to Robert as the landlord at dinner with friends. He was done pretending. You know, Michael said, sipping coffee one morning, you didn't marry my bank account. Jessica smirked. Didn't I? Because your dad sure thinks I did. Michael put his cup down slowly. Maybe he just knows how to read people better than I do. Silence. Jessica blinked. Excuse me. Michael stood up. You're excused. Robert invited Michael to dinner. Just the two of them. No Jessica. No drama. Michael was quiet at first, then finally broke. You were right. Robert didn't gloat. He just passed the mashed potatoes. Michael continued. She doesn't love me, Dad. She loves what I represent. And I let her. Robert reached across the table and put a firm hand on his son's shoulder. I know you wanted to believe the best in her, he said. That's not weakness. That's heart. But it's time to wake up, Mike. Michael looked up. I want out. But if I walk away, she'll ruin me. Robert raised an eyebrow. Unless we make her walk first. Robert called in favors. An estate attorney. A tax specialist. A former private investigator who owed him from back in '96. Over the next week, Robert and Michael started tightening the noose, legally. Michael's accounts were separated. The condo lease was quietly rewritten in Robert's trust. Jessica's business expenses were audited, and let's just say, a fake LLC on Etsy doesn't look good to the iOS. Meanwhile, Jessica posed for Instagram with #bossbride captions and free PR packages. She had no idea the walls were closing in. The final spark came in a jewelry store. Jessica demanded a just because necklace from Tiffany's, $6,000, no discount. Michael said no. Jessica screamed. In public. You're just like your father, cheap, cold, manipulative. Michael calmly replied, and you're just like your mother, loud, broke, and mean. Gasps from shoppers. Jessica stormed out. The engagement bracelet she flaunted so proudly, left behind on the counter. That night, she packed a bag and left. Michael didn't chase her. Robert poured 2 bourbons. Proud of you, son. Jessica moved in with her mother. Her TikTok turned dark. Toxic in-laws ruined my marriage went viral, but comments weren't kind. Girl, you married for money, now you're mad it's gone. That old man owned your wedding and your reputation. She tried booking a venue for a recommitment party, whatever that is, with her influencer friends. But every luxury venue in the city now contracted with Robert. Every single one. He wasn't being spiteful. He was being strategic. One polite call to each owner. I'd prefer you not host anyone publicly trashing my family. I'm happy to buy out the dates if needed. And he did. Jessica's Dream 2.0 was cancelled 3 days before the event. And the cherry on top? She received a polite letter from the Crystal Ivy estate. Due to pending litigation, your access to the premises has been permanently revoked. She ripped it in half, screamed, then cried. Robert didn't smile, but he did sleep like a baby. Jessica wasn't the retreating type. Within a week of her recommitment party cancellation, she marched into a boutique law office wearing sunglasses indoors and a rage-fueled sense of entitlement. I'm suing my father-in-law for emotional distress and business interference, she announced. The lawyer, an overpaid Instagram ad click, nodded like a bobblehead. He bought my wedding venue just to spite me. That's harassment, right? Well, the lawyer hedged. It's not ideal, but it's not illegal if he owns it. Jessica slammed her bag on the desk. Then we find something. Anything. What she didn't know. Robert had been preparing for this since before the wedding. Michael met with Robert's attorney that same day. He laid the prenup on the desk. Jessica had insisted on one, not to protect herself, but to protect his assets, knowing she'd never leave unless she needed to. Ironically, it now worked in Michael's favor. Clause 3. Infidelity or financial misrepresentation nullifies spousal claim to shared property. Robert raised an eyebrow. Financial misrepresentation. Michael nodded. She told me she was debt-free. Turns out, she owes $42,000 on 5 credit cards and defaulted on 2 of them. Robert whistled. Jessica's dream wedding was paid with lies and late fees. The investigator found more. A previous engagement, filed under a different last name, cancelled 6 weeks before the wedding, after her ex's father pulled out of paying. And get this, that venue? She never got her deposit back. Robert chuckled darkly. History doesn't repeat. It rhymes. Michael was shaken but steady. What do we do with this? Robert sipped his coffee. We don't weaponize it. We prepare it. Michael frowned. What do you mean? Let her sue. Let her lie. When she stands in court, I'll hold up her blueprint and show the judge this wasn't a wedding, it was a business pitch. Jessica went live on Instagram with a moody filter and tears painted on. They destroyed my marriage. I just wanted love, stability, and some help. Cue the music. Cue the fake sob. Cue the comments rolling in. 10 minutes later, there was a knock at her door. She opened it to find a man in a crisp suit. Delivery for Ms. Jessica Monroe Lawson. She signed. Inside, a gold-trimmed envelope. You are hereby served with a cease and desist for defamatory content involving Robert Lawson and Michael Lawson. Continued violation will result in a formal countersuit. Attached was a printed screenshot of her "They Ruined My Life" video, time-stamped. Jessica's hands trembled. The next morning, Michael sat across from her at a coffee shop. No lawyers. No cameras. Just 2 people with 1,000 broken promises between them. I'm filing, he said simply. Jessica blinked. You ending this? He nodded. You already did. I'm just making it official. She leaned back, arms crossed. You'll regret this. You'll die alone in your daddy's house. Michael smiled sadly. I'd rather die alone than sleep next to someone who married my bank account. He slid the envelope across the table and stood up. Jessica stared at the divorce papers. And for the first time in her adult life, she had nothing to say. Jessica, now legally Jessica Monroe again, wasn't going down quietly. She started what she called her healing journey online. Videos of her crying while journaling. Day 2 of healing from betrayal. TikToks captioned, when your husband chooses his father over his wife, broken heart, #gaslight, #golden child, #survivor. But something had changed. The audience wasn't buying it anymore. One top comment went viral. Girl, he bought your wedding venue and you didn't even know. Sit down. Another. If your love story starts with money, don't cry when it ends with receipts. Her follower count dipped. Brand deals paused. A podcast interview got cancelled midweek. Jessica tried pivoting to wellness content. But the internet doesn't heal like that. 3 weeks post-divorce filing, Robert received something unexpected. A letter. No return address. Written in shaky cursive on ivory stationery. Mr. Lawson, I don't know you, but I know your daughter-in-law. I worked with her in LA 6 years ago. She did the same thing to a man named Eric, maxed his cards, dumped him when he lost his job. I thought you should know. Jessica doesn't just marry for money. She hunts it. A woman who's seen too much. Robert folded the letter, placed it in a drawer, and locked it. Sometimes the best revenge is knowing you were right. That night, Robert sat on the porch with a glass of bourbon and a quiet mind until his phone buzzed. Michael. Dad, we need to talk. 10 minutes later, Michael arrived, pale, shaken, holding an iPad. He played a video security clip from their condo elevator, a timestamp from 2 months before the wedding. Robert leaned in. Jessica and Robert's nephew, Chase. Too close. Too flirty. She kissed him on the cheek, and not the family kind. Robert's eyes narrowed. Chase, from the rehearsal dinner. Michael nodded. Yeah. He said he was sick that night. But now I know why. Robert's mouth tightened. He wasn't sick. He was sleeping with your fiancé. Robert didn't wait. He called Chase that night. No small talk. Just one line. Meet me tomorrow. Alone. No lies this time. At the local park bench where Robert used to take Michael to feed ducks, the two men sat silently. Chase, 40, balding, always trying too hard. Robert, stone-faced. You had something with her? Robert asked flatly. Chase exhaled. It wasn't serious. It was before she got engaged. Robert didn't blink. The video is dated after they were engaged. Silence. Chase mumbled. She said Michael wasn't emotionally mature. She said you were controlling. I didn't think they'd last. Robert stood. Congratulations, Chase. You were the only thing lower than her in this story. And he walked away. The next day, Robert visited the Crystal Ivy estate. He walked the marble halls, ran his fingers along the banisters Jessica had once obsessed over. Then he made a call. To the board of the county women's shelter, please. He donated the venue, all 30 acres, the gardens, the ballroom, the bridal suite, for permanent community events, shelter fundraisers, and free weddings for domestic violence survivors. He renamed it too, the Lawson Sanctuary. When the press release hit, Jessica saw it online. Lawson family turns wedding venue into safe haven for women. She screamed into her pillow. The dream she chased for status now belonged to those who never chased money, but deserved love. Jessica stared at the headline glowing on her phone screen. The Lawson Sanctuary, from luxury venue to lifeline for women. Thousands of shares. Celebrities reposting. Praise in the comments. And one devastating tag from her ex-friend. This could have been you, girl, if you weren't so fake. Jessica hurled her phone across her mother's floral living room. It hit a porcelain figurine, shattered both. Oops, Donna muttered, not even looking up from her word puzzle. Another piece of glass. You break everything you touch lately. Jessica blinked. Excuse me. Donna exhaled. You blew it, sweetheart. You had a good man. A chance. A family. Now you're 34, unemployed, cancelled online, and living in your childhood bedroom. Jessica stood up, cheeks burning. You always take their side. Her mother didn't flinch. No. I just finally stopped taking yours. Meanwhile, Robert Lawson stood on the steps of City Hall, adjusting his cufflinks. He hated attention. But this time, he earned it. The mayor handed him a crystal plaque for outstanding contribution to women's welfare and community empowerment. Michael clapped from the front row, smiling genuinely for the first time in months. The news camera panned across Robert's face as he gave a short, firm speech. I've seen people build weddings on lies, and I've seen strangers rebuild lives with honesty. I know which is worth investing in. Jessica watched the entire broadcast from her phone, curled up in her childhood bed. Every word hit like a blade. 1 month later, Robert attended a fundraiser gala hosted at the Lawson Sanctuary. Women in colorful gowns. Children laughing on the lawn. A jazz trio playing under twinkling lights. He stood quietly near the bar when a server bumped into him and dropped a tray of sparkling water. Apologizing, the young woman bent to clean it. She looked up. It was Jessica. Her eyes were hollow. Her posture small. Her hair dull. Makeup free. Apron stained. They locked eyes. She opened her mouth, but Robert raised a hand gently. No need, he said. She nodded. And just like that, she vanished into the catering tent. Weeks later, Robert sat in his study, flipping through old files. He found the anonymous letter again, the one warning him about Jessica's past. But now, something felt different. He placed it on the desk and, for the first time, looked at the handwriting closely. It matched a birthday card Michael's late mother had written to her sister, decades ago. Which meant, the letter came from his sister-in-law, Deborah. He called her the next day. I had to, Deborah admitted over the phone. I knew you'd listen to the facts, not the drama. Robert smiled softly. You saved Michael's future. She laughed. And probably your wallet. Thanksgiving. The Lawson home was full again. Laughter, food, old stories. Michael had started dating someone new, a school teacher named Erin. Sweet, smart, no filters, no invoices. As everyone toasted pumpkin pie, Robert stood up. "I have one more thing to be thankful for," he said. "Perspective. Because sometimes losing something you thought mattered gives you everything you really needed." The family clapped. The camera panned out. And in a quiet part of town, Jessica sat alone in a diner, scrolling through old photos on her cracked phone. The wedding that wasn't hers anymore, the smile that was all pretend. No likes. No comments. Just silence. The sun peeked over the horizon as Evelyn twirled around the empty ballroom of what was supposed to be her wedding venue, the Grand White Rose Estate. It had floor-to-ceiling windows, imported chandeliers, and a legacy. It was also no longer hers. "Are you sure we still have it?" she had asked Brian that morning. He looked uncertain. "The deposit's paid. We signed months ago, remember?" But when she arrived, a smug voice met her. "Afraid the rose has been pruned," said George, appearing at the top of the staircase. Evelyn froze. George was holding a clipboard, flanked by a newly installed manager. "You?" she hissed. "I bought the venue. Last week. Cash," George said, calm but firm. "Let's just say I wanted a front row seat to see if gold actually glitters under pressure." She shrieked, "You can't do this." But the contract had a clause. The new owner had discretion to approve or cancel any pending bookings. George had cancelled theirs, quietly. Revenge? No. George called it asset relocation. Evelyn's meltdown was live-streamed on TikTok. No filter. No script. Just raw fury. "This is elder abuse," she screamed in front of the White Rose gates, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Why would my FIL ruin my life? I'm the victim." The video racked up millions of views overnight. Comments were brutal. "Girl, you married for money and now mad the ATM got smart." Plot twist, he's the main character. George is him. Let that king cook. Evelyn's influencer reputation tanked. Brands distanced themselves. Her bridal sponsorships vanished. One by one, the collaborations she boasted about dried up. Even her followers began posting #TeamGeorge memes, photoshopping him as a mob boss holding wedding venues hostage. Meanwhile, George didn't even own a smartphone. He read about it all from printouts handed to him by his assistant. Brian sat in the driveway of George's house, engine off, staring at the dashboard. His heart pounded. He hadn't spoken to his father in weeks. Evelyn controlled his calendar, his meals, and recently, his wallet. She'd accidentally cancelled all his cards, claiming it was for budgeting. Brian had had enough. He walked up to the door and rang the bell. George opened it slowly. "Son," he said, arms crossed. "I miss Mom," Brian said, voice cracking. "And I miss you." George didn't speak. "I screwed up," Brian continued. "She manipulated me. You tried to warn me. I didn't listen." George gestured him inside. No lecture. No scolding. Just coffee and silence. The kind only fathers and sons understand. And just like that, the first thread of reconciliation was woven. But Evelyn wasn't done. She wasn't going to lose everything, not after coming so close. She hired a lawyer. Accused George of emotional abuse, fraudulent interference, even intellectual theft of her wedding theme. It was laughable. But then she went lower. She filed for a restraining order on George, claiming he was threatening her future. George showed up in court in a crisp navy suit. Calm. Cool. Evelyn had arrived in white, pretending to be the grieving bride. The judge took one look at the evidence and said, "This isn't family court. This is fiction." Case dismissed. George walked out, head held high. Evelyn screamed in the corridor. He ruined everything. But no one listened this time. Eventually, Evelyn moved the wedding to a park. A DIY setup with plastic chairs and a tent. But the florist cancelled. So did the caterer. The DJ never showed. The only guests? 3 influencers she paid to live stream it. Brian? He didn't come. He'd left 2 days earlier, filed for annulment, cancelled the joint account, and disappeared to the mountains for clarity. George smiled quietly when he heard. He didn't cheer. He didn't gloat. He just planted a tree in his backyard. A white rose. The same flower that once stood for Evelyn's dream wedding. Now bloomed quietly in George's garden. Poetic justice? Maybe. But for George, it was just peace. The day of the grand reopening finally arrived. Henry stood outside the venue, Marigold Hall, no longer a crumbling shell, but a refined architectural beauty of the past and future, infused with pride and vengeance. Ivy wrapped the pillars, music floated through the air, and a massive banner read, "Marigold Hall, a legacy of second chances." The invitation had been posted all over town, and despite knowing it was Henry who owned it now, Savannah couldn't resist showing up. Wearing a tight crimson dress and fake confidence, Savannah walked in with Marcus-like royalty. They were dressed to reclaim what she believed was rightfully hers. Henry greeted guests at the entrance. When Savannah arrived, his voice boomed with charm and mockery. Henry, with a sly smile. "Savannah, you look radiant. I hope tonight lives up to your expectations. After all, it's your dream, resurrected by the man you discarded." Savannah's lips twitched, but she forced a smile. "We're just here to support the community." Henry. "Oh, darling, you always were a supporter of wallets and weddings." The crowd around them chuckled. She was trapped in his narrative now. And he wasn't done. The ballroom lights dimmed. Henry took center stage with the MIC. A video began playing on the large screen. It was a beautifully produced documentary-style reel. Clips of the old venue from the past. Henry's voice narrating the story of betrayal. The rebuilding process. Interviews with workers who helped revive it. Footage of Savannah, snooping, shouting, snatching bridal magazines and demanding discounts from suppliers before the first wedding. And finally, the punch. This hall isn't just bricks and beams, it's proof that even the deepest betrayals can build something beautiful. Savannah's face was pale. The crowd gasped. Marcus, trying to be noble, attempted to storm out, but the reporters were already taking pictures. And finally, the punch. This hall isn't just bricks and beams, it's proof that even the deepest betrayals can build something beautiful. Savannah's face was pale. The crowd gasped. Marcus, trying to be noble, attempted to storm out, but the reporters were already taking pictures. The next morning, Henry's inbox was filled with partnership offers. Wedding vendors wanted in. TV shows wanted to feature the story. But more importantly, Savannah received a letter from Henry's lawyer. It included documentation of her fraudulent claims during her marriage to Marcus. Evidence she siphoned funds from Henry's original wedding contributions. A clause in the prenup that gave Henry rights to seek damages if Savannah was found to have manipulated the family for financial gain. Savannah had 30 days to settle or face court. Her dream venue had become a legal nightmare. Savannah's reputation took a hit online. Former clients pulled away from her freelance wedding planning services. Her Instagram lost followers daily. Meanwhile, Henry hired single mothers and older veterans to help run the venue. He named each suite after women who'd overcome adversity. A viral clip of him hugging a bride and gifting her a free ceremony for overcoming breast cancer made national news. When a journalist asked Henry, "Why invest so much in helping others?" he replied simply, "Because once, someone tried to use love to steal from me. I'm just stealing it back, one happy couple at a time." 2 years later, Savannah worked as a temp at a rental chair company. One hot June afternoon, she was sent to deliver folding chairs to, you guessed it, Marigold Hall. She arrived sweaty, tired, and unnoticed. Inside the ballroom, a wedding was in full bloom. Henry saw her through the glass and gave her a slight nod, not cruel, not triumphant. Just acknowledgement. He turned back to the bride and whispered something that made her laugh. Savannah stood there for a moment, watching joy echo in the place she'd tried to steal. The final sting? The bride was wearing the exact same dress Savannah once chose for her own wedding, back when she thought she'd won. As the music played, Henry stepped onto the floor to join a group dance with guests, young and old, black and white, rich and poor. He had built something greater than vengeance. He had built a legacy. Narrator, third person. Henry didn't just take back what was his. He turned every insult, every betrayal, every tantrum into a step forward. And in the hall she dreamed of owning, he now danced with joy, grace, and the quiet satisfaction of poetic justice. And as the sun set behind Marigold Hall, Savannah walked back to her delivery van, never looking back. But Henry? He kept dancing. Think revenge is loud? Sometimes it's elegant. Sometimes it wears a tux and hosts a charity ball. Thumbs up sign like this story? Repeat button, share it with someone who needs a reminder that karma sometimes throws confetti. Inbox tray, subscribe for more epic tales of revenge, redemption, and the delicious taste of poetic justice.